This experience is for families with older kids or groups of adult friends or couples or really anyone who wants to learn how to snowboard and/or ski. The vibe is one of mountain sport adventures. There is some intense physical work if you are learning, and even if you are a seasoned veteran, the trails are fantastically long and challenging, so your evenings can be well spent around a fire, eating and relaxing. Hi, I'm Kim Wilson. I'm an OSU graduate, corporate professional by day, and adventure seeker at all other times. I've been to all but 2 continents, and I never want to stop learning and seeing what this wonderful world has to offer. I chose spring break in Killington, Vermont as my wonderful experience. We live in Columbus, Ohio, and access to real mountains for skiing and snowboarding is limited. You usually have to drive at least 4 to 5 hours for anything worthwhile, so to avoid having to fly with a lot of equipment and gear, we decided to pack it all up and make the 11-hour drive. I have 1 son and a daughter who didn't make this trip, and my boyfriend Tony has 4 kids, ranging in age from 11 to 15. We wanted to do something very different from the usual beach vacation for spring break, and most of the kids tried snowboarding with ski club at school this year. So we took a chance on the weather conditions and booked a 5-bedroom house that was a 10-minute drive from the Beast, Killington Mountain in Vermont. Considering it was 5 kids and 2 adults, along with so much gear, we had to take both his truck and my car, driving through periodic blinding whiteout snowstorms, which, hooray for that, considering we wanted fresh snow, and it all worked out amazingly. So of the 7 of us, only 2 had intermediate skills with skiing and snowboarding. Everyone else had gone only a few other times, with the youngest, an 11-year-old, having only gone once before. Upon arriving, we headed immediately to the Snowshed Lodge when the lifts opened, parked in the front row because we practically had the mountain to ourselves, and spoke with Josh, a mountain ambassador who quickly pulled out a map and highlighted the routes for beginners and what lifts to take. He assuaged my fears of being stuck at the top of a double black diamond run with a pile of newbies with fear in their eyes. Everyone strapped in and immediately got in line at the Ram's Head Express lift, which I'm thankful that we didn't even stop at the Bunny Hill or Learners area. If we had done that, we would have probably spent most of the day working up the courage to jump on that lift. But instead, what happened was most remarkable. Even though it took a few of us over an hour and a half to make it down to the bottom on our first run, there was no other option but to finish, and none of the areas were too steep to navigate. We walked down a few places, but kept strapping back in and trying again. The kids paired up after that first run, and they took off and started exploring at their own pace. And by the end of the day, we managed to knock out a family shred session with just the 7 of us floating down the easy street run, all alone yet together, all vibing off of each other and having the best time of our lives. We rode just 2 days in a row, which was more than enough for this beginner crew. We also really only rode in the Ram's Head area, but we managed to take a few runs and lifts over to experience the K1 gondola and ride up to the Peak Lodge, where we grabbed a beer for the adults, and we took in the view, and then we rode the gondola back down. There are some blue trails down from the peak, but everyone was too exhausted to try them out. That mountain is huge but wonderful, and we hit the jackpot on the weather lottery with the late March snowstorms that gave us ideal conditions to ride and 0 lines for anything. Killington is trying to make themselves known as a destination for spring skiing, and I can attest to their success in keeping up the base snow levels with almost all of their lifts and runs still open, even to this day, the 2nd week of April. So my top 5 tips are, the first one is putting 7 people on skis or snowboards for the first time can be quite expensive, and since they are all teens or younger and still growing, we decided to rent gear for the season from a local shop, Aspen Ski and Board. The cost was super reasonable. It was actually less than renting both days there, and they got to use that same equipment for ski club all throughout the school year as well. My second tip was to purchase the lift tickets in October to take advantage of the early pricing. Once we decided to do this vacation, we just went for it. I found my third tip was finding a great place to stay on the VRBO app. It was only a 10-minute drive to the mountain. Ski in, ski out is completely unnecessary at Killington, in my opinion. We also brought and made all of our meals at home and did laundry there so we could reduce our baggage and overall costs. My fourth tip is to layer up. The temperatures were between 6 and 12 degrees Fahrenheit on the first day we were there. It was the last week of March, and it was so cold. But with the layers, it made it just not even a factor. Glove liners and double wool socks are an absolute must. And my fifth tip is, if it's your first or second or third time even, and you are apprehensive about going on a big mountain, you should not be intimidated by that lift at all. You should just go for it. Get on it and make your way down. It's really just a longer version of the bunny hill, and it gets you just enough practice to finish that run and make the next lift run. It just makes the next lift run 100 times easier. You're not intimidated by getting on that lift. Sometimes that holds people back. So in conclusion, by the end of the trip, everyone was exhausted and happy. And despite the fact that we actually imposed a 6 to 10 p.m. phone lockup requirement, and the physical accomplishments and the victory of learning a new sport made this spring break one that these kids will remember for the rest of their lives. I have no doubt.